Raymond James Stadium.
What are you smoking or drinking, and get me some?
When do you think that offense, in your mind, really started clicking and you were like, we have really got something here?
Well, I think it really started the second half of the Kansas City game. Then going into the open date, we solidified a lot of things that we were doing self-scout-wise and running the ball-wise, play action, the whole thing. And I thought we played outstanding the rest of the way.
So you just heard Arians reference that as the Buccaneers were heading into their bye week following a Week 12 loss to the Chiefs. Dan was saying they should look at themselves and see what's not working and then also what is working, right? Well, whatever they did, it did end up working. Brady has passed for the league's most yards and touchdowns since Week 14, while the team has also posted the league's lowest turnover rate in that span. So, Dan, you've been tough on the Bucs and their coaching and their offense throughout a lot of the season, right? But you've had a little change of heart, so tell us about it.
Well, I think, first of all, we've got to give them credit for making those adjustments. You know, I've said multiple times that they decided to watch NFL Live and figure out what they were doing well on offense and what they needed to fix. First of all, they figured out giving Tom Brady ownership of the line of scrimmage. That's what Tom's been notorious for, is getting to the line of scrimmage, gathering information, what's the blitz that's coming, giving the offensive line who's coming, and then finding the matchup. And then the second thing is they realized they got to play inside out rather than outside in. They were so in love with the talent on the outside that it was chuck and duck all over the place and they couldn't protect. And what they did was realizing, okay, if we keep Brady protected, they're going to be great and those guys will win on the outside. That's why we've heard BA reference all that play action pass. But watching them last week, it brought me back in time. You know, when they needed a big play, it's always been Tom Brady finding Rob Gronkowski. Years ago against the Chiefs, it was the slants. Against the Rams in the Super Bowl. But this time, it's the screen pass. It's the second most important play of the game. You see Scotty Miller on that orbit motion and then return. And then they got the inside zone fake. So watch everybody on the defense. Like, their vision is completely to the left side of your screen, right side of the football field. They've got Chris Godwin that's going to lift off all that coverage and a 3-count screen for Rob Gronkowski. All he has to do is be patient. What that does, it leaves one defender to that side of the field. Huge moment. 2nd and 11, screen pass to Rob Gronkowski becomes a 34-yard chunk. Catch and run for that offense, gets him in the field goal range and really makes it that 8-point victory or that 8-point lead. And we've become so accustomed to Tom Brady, to Rob Gronkowski in crucial moments. And it ended up in that same situation. It just looked differently to all of us. Instead of going down the field, the screen pass. So credit BA and that offensive staff, Byron Leftwich. And that's the point, Ruddy. Like, if Brian Dable or Matt LaFleur or Andy Reid called that screen, it would have been a huge conversation on Monday. So I want to give Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich their flowers today. Great game planning and great understanding of what they were going to do well.
No doubt, Dan. And also to add to that, speaking from the offensive standpoint, like the implementation of not only the run game that you heard Bruce Arians mention, but also the check down game, the get the ball out of Tom Brady's hands quick game. Sure. Like, as a former defensive player that's played against him, that is the part that gives you headaches. The fact that he's releasing the ball when you're winning rushes in what should be pressures or sacks, or at least to have the opportunity to get him on the ground. Earlier this year, we saw Tom Brady sacked a lot, pressured a lot because of all of the down the field big plays that they wanted to hit throughout the game. You take possession after possession when this team has had success and now they're winning. It's been a lot of dink and dunk. It's been taking our shots at the opportunistic times. It's been running the football to make linebackers respect it and come up. And now you're starting to see, and that's why I said Dan talked about this last game against Green Bay being what you recognize as a Tom Brady influence. I thought it was, I recognized it against the Saints because I think they went into that game saying Tom Brady has thrown 5 interceptions in the first 2 meetings against this team. Obviously, we need to do something different. And what was different was more of what Tom Brady has done for the majority of his career at the quarterback spot. So I give Tampa credit for that. Like Dan is saying, more of a Tom Brady influence, more of what he's comfortable with doing. And that's what every team with a quarterback should be trying to do anyway.
All right, Key, so now the Buccaneers get a B back. So even more weapons, right, for Tom Brady, which should be scary for some people out there, you'd think. But does this Buccaneers offense scare you?
It does not scare me, and I don't think it scares the Kansas City Chiefs at all. This is playoff football, though, right? Marcus mentioned it. You run the football with Leonard Fournette. Tom Brady becomes somewhat of a super manager because this really is about the defense. You think about what that defense did against Green Bay. You turn that football over 3 times, and yet and still they walk away with 6 points because of the defense. Tom Brady's there to manage the game and do it well, and he's been able to do that. There's nothing wrong with that at this stage of his career. Everything that he's brought to the table to this football team, changing the landscape, not throwing 30 interceptions, all that is extremely important. But so is JPP, so is Devin White, so is the other guys on that defense. When you think about Davis, Whitfield, and some Dean, those guys come to the party, so it changes the landscape. It gives you a short field. That is how you win football games. That is how we won the Super Bowl. We ran the football, come playoff time, we dominated up front on the defensive side of the ball, and our quarterback, Brad Johnson, was very efficient and made plays. That is how the Buccaneers will win the Super Bowl.
Hey, Dan, really fast. Did Keyshawn just call Tom Brady a game manager?
Yeah.
I called him a super manager because that's the style in which they play.
You saw my eyes just bulge out of my head.
It.
Listen, they're in the Super Bowl, okay?
Dan, I know you scared to say that because we praise Tom Brady to a whole nother level. We praise him to a whole nother level. But you got to understand that defense. He gave the ball away 3 times against Green Bay. That defense gave him 6 points, big guy. 6 points.
Key. They're in the Super Bowl. We all know that their defense is fantastic. No one's throwing any form of shade on their defense. But to sit here and say that he's a super manager, he threw for 40 touchdowns. And here's the thing, Key.
That's good, though.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Man, stop.
You guys have heard me say this before. Don't talk to me about turnovers. Talk to me about what you do with turnovers. Yes, they've gotten them, but then when their defense get those turnovers, their offense capitalizes on them. Their offense scores with them. So that's why, this is a very connected football team. The offense is just as dangerous as the defense.
All right, according to Elias, this will be the first Super Bowl featuring the league's top 2 regular season leaders in passing yards per game. And now to some very troubling news from today. Chad Wheeler, who played 5 games for the Seahawks this past season, has been released from jail on a $400,000 bond after being arrested for felony assault domestic violence. He's accused of throwing a woman on a bed, strangling her before she lost consciousness, and picking the lock to a bathroom where she had fled to call 911. Adam Schefter with us. Adam, what more can you tell us?
Laura, these are highly troubling charges, and the Seattle Seahawks this afternoon pointed out that Chad Wheeler is no longer a member of that team because his contract is up and he will not be brought back to that team. Also, the Seahawks released a very carefully, strongly, and well-worded statement in which they basically said that they condemn domestic violence, that Chad Wheeler is somebody that should seek help at this point in time, and they listed the number of the national hotline that people should call for help for domestic violence. So obviously a very serious and troubling situation. The Seattle Seahawks addressed it publicly, and Chad Wheeler is obviously through with the Seattle Seahawks and very probably through with the NFL, depending on how this investigation and these charges go.
Marcus, you wanted to add.
Yeah, Shefty, I love the fact that we come on at 4 and have the opportunity to gather information. And we got the best guy in the world at finding things out and the intricate details of a story. And I wanted to be politically correct. I wanted to come on here and be like, hey, and some of that we will do. But we about to make Chad Wheeler famous because he needs to be a face that everybody knows and sees how wrong, disrespectful, and how bad it is, period. Like the graphic nature of what we saw, the graphic nature of what's being reported of his response to what he saw after he thought he had killed a woman, okay? That is why we need to put this on blast. The reason why I wanted to talk about this, and I'm going to take y'all in the back room before we get to shows. I was pressing upon to talk about this because I was raised in a household where this transpired. I also have listened to thousands of stories, not close to me, but around and reading and researching and trying to get a better grasp on what people are going through, what women are going through, what people that suffer from domestic violence are going through, so I can speak to this from more than just an emotional standpoint. The bottom line is this. Anytime this situation arises, best believe that NFL Live is going to make the perpetrator famous. And we're going to make sure everybody knows what they look like and understand that these situations have to stop happening. One point I want to make. This is not indicative of football players. It's really, really great men in that league. It's not indicative of the majority of men in society when this is going on. But it's going on, and we going to pay attention, call it, and we're going to call it like we see it. Y'all know I am, and I think we all should carry that responsibility when it comes to our doorstep in the sport that we cover.
Yeah, Marcus, to your point, this is an extremely difficult topic, but the reality is domestic violence is sadly prevalent. We rarely get a window into the crime the way that we did in this situation, but what we've seen with photos that exist and what the police say happened is horrifying. It transcends football. And I want to put this into proper context before delving into football for the rest of the hour here. While we look to law enforcement and the league to respond quickly, we can also take a moment to be disgusted and to recognize that more needs to be done. Also, how we talk about this matters. Wheeler's victim may very well feel bad that he's getting in trouble. She should not be judged. More NFL Live is next.